Originally in Spanish, April 2022. What's going on there is very simple, with the Romance and Renaissance happening simultaneously. It's not that the Roman period is happening at the same time as the Renaissance, but it's the mind of the observer that is focused first on the Roman period and then focused on going to see the Renaissance. And what you look for, you find, manifest. If that doesn't happen with you or with people who are trying this, for example today, because if you go to see Hadrian's wall from Finland today in jet, you are going to find the wall but as it is in 2022. No matter how much you want to see its construction in Roman times. It's because you are within the collective agreement soup of the earth that en masse coordinates what you see and what you manifest in front of you by dominant frequencies, as I have explained before. And if Tina and her mummy manifest Roman times and the Renaissance, it is because they are not part of that collective, because they are from outside, because they are not within that mass of perception agreements. Everything is consciousness. Everything is happening now. Everything is frequencies. You only manifest the collective and what is in agreement with the laws and perception of the collective when you are part of that collective that has synchronized a person's perception of reality with that of that collective. Even knowing this is not enough, as you need even more work to deprogram the personal unconscious and program it with the new, because it is not enough just to know something. It is necessary to turn it completely your own by removing all the previous blockages and programming. And this is very difficult. Just to begin with, because as they are unconscious, we cannot see or know which ones we or you need to deprogram and reprogram with the new model of personal thought reality with its new rules and all. But the mind, when it is not within a collective, is that powerful. That is why timelines get fractured, as they are today on Earth, because there are not only individuals, but whole masses of groups of people who see and perceive and manifest reality in different ways and with different rules. That is why I have been saying for 2 years now that the timelines on Earth at this time are fractured, and they continue to be fractured. Reality for some is not reality for others, needless to say. Only when everyone on Earth agrees will the collective objective reality come together as one piece. And good luck with that, because it's not that Earth's timeline was fractured at the end of 2019, but it got only more fractured than it already was. That's the problem with Earth precisely, the fractalization of personal and collective realities, creating antagonistic groups all over the place that then come into conflict. And that is the way the controllers want it, all of them, and at every level of the many that exist, because they retain a set of agreements that they impose on the whole collective base agreements that form the reality manifested by the totality of the people of Earth as the basis of all. That is to say, that humans do have a set of rules of perception manipulated by the very controllers that give them a base framework of control over the entire human population, to then fracture other less basic points of perception from which they create separation and artificial conflict between members of social groups. The first group of basic agreements that are common to all are the obvious ones, the do's and don'ts, that they are human, that they cannot pass through walls without a door, that they are on earth, that they need to eat, that they go to the bathroom, all that which is logically in common with all the peoples of the earth, and many of which also apply to the animal and vegetable kingdom, or to the world of physics, which in itself is again formed by the human mind. From there comes the other group of collective agreements, imposed by the controllers, applied only to some groups and not to others, that will have another set of laws. An example of this are religions. The difference between the creation stories of the world and of the human race among different peoples by the imposition on them of different religions, with a view to control and exploit them. That is to say, that in one social or ethnic or political group, they will believe in the science of Darwinian evolution, and another will believe that it was Jehovah who created the world in 7 days, 3,000 years ago. And another will say that it was Allah, and so on. And from there will be added the total complexity of politics and human ideologies and philosophies that separate the population and set them against each other in order to exploit them vigorously at all levels. From the lush emanated by the concentration of creative energy through the use of fear and suffering, to the simple economic exploitation through unjust banking systems. But everything is separation there, always by design of the controllers at all levels, even with small things where the opinion of the human population strongly differs, all with the goal to create separation, to control the population and keep them all within an inherently false reality, where neither their science nor their history is real, but not even a little. However, not all is bad within that framework of eternally fractured realities and timelines on Earth, because that same dynamic of separation is also what creates the cultural richness of the 3D world on Earth, which enriches the experience to levels that cannot be seen in other cultures, where they are a harmonious yet sterile and boring stable social mass. It becomes a sterile and boring social mass in an advanced planet because the perception of the agreements of reality among the inhabitants is very continuous. They agree with more things, to the extent that the music always becomes the same, because it is the one that almost everyone likes, not to say everyone. The same goes for art, architecture, the interests of the population, fashion and gastronomy, among many other things, because they form the cultural expression of a people and reflect their homogeneous mentality, because they are all in agreement. While this is an extreme, obviously in many cultures there is a degree of disagreement that enriches society by creating a wealth of thought options. As much as I love chocolate ice cream, it becomes monotonous if you can't find lemon, vanilla, strawberry, chocolate with flavored sprinkles, coconut and guanabana in the ice cream shops. But when these differences in the perception of reality reach a critical point, opposing ideologies based on fear, then a fractured environment is created, which is highly harmful for the development of any society, as it happens on Earth. And this is how religions are formed, and how they artificially set them against each other, using the most basic human psychology, where they use fear to focus and concentrate perception without the possibility for the people within that group to question what they are being told. This, coupled with the fact that this indoctrination has been imposed on them from a very young age. As one pope once said, "Give me a child before 7 years of age, and he will always belong to the church." They create fear of eternal damnation in hell if they do not obey certain rules. And then they impose the same thing with another religion on another social group, but with laws that oppose those of the first, creating with it a concept that both parties are in fear of not complying with their rules in the face of the threat of immense and impossible to describe horrific heavy punishment. Then, as both sides believe in exactly the same thing, but with a different twist, enough to create a perception that theirs is the correct version, both groups will defend their ideology with their very lives. And this repeats itself through history, over and over and over and over again. And humans fall back into the same and the same, because they have no memory of previous lives to help them remember, therefore not to repeat. And the next level is that not only do they not have their past life memory, but human history is completely not only modified to suit whoever, but it is almost entirely made up. And what is not made up either does not matter, or they are simply twisting events that did happen, but put in a context that is in their interest of the controllers, in order to extend and fulfill their agendas. So humans lose past life memories, and then false documented memories are imposed on them. This is why humanity repeats and repeats the same mistakes constantly. But this is by design, and it is a formula of control over humanity that they have always used. And what does this imply then? That it is necessary to provoke constant resets to erase all reality and all the historical past of humanity, or else they would learn from their mistakes and could not be controlled. As has been said ad nauseam, it is a human farm there. That's why nothing we say fits, but not even close, within the expectations of the history scholars, as it happens with the criticisms on the subject of the Sumerian tablets, or as it happens with the formation of the explanatory framework around the UFO phenomenon. Everything is the now, but it is not seen because they are inside a frame of references that they call the matrix. Whoever comes from outside will be able to see it, although they themselves are also inside another matrix that in many things agrees with the terrestrial one, but in others it does not agree. At the points where it does not agree, and which have caused many problems of understanding of the public, is the temporal perception of all things. I will say what I have always said. Time there is perceived linearly. Here, it is only semi-linear, as long as you have a reference by movement or sequence of perceptible events. What is outside the series of perceptible sequential events does not fall within the same perception or progression or rate of temporal progression. Because the members of a social group or culture on one planet are mostly unaware of what is happening on another, thus creating the well-known phenomenon of temporal slip or desynchronization. Back to the starting point. This is why Tina and her mommy amalgamated the Romans with the Renaissance. And if they had looked further, they could have found New York at the time of Martin Luther King at the same time. This to me is very important to explain, because in reading what Tina explained above, I felt it lends itself to windows of discrediting, when what is happening is very logical and even simple. Tina and her mommy perceive another set of reality-forming mental agreements. Therefore, everything is the now for them when applied to something outside of their reality, as happens when visiting Earth, because, duh, they are not from Earth. From the point of view of humanity, there is a progression. That is because time is perceived in a linear way. It is correct then that first it was the Romans, then years later the Renaissance, and then the 60s in New York. But from the point of view of an outsider, more so if one has the experience of multiple incarnations of doing time jumps, as the Swaroonians have, then time becomes plastic. Everything begins to manifest in the now. This is the basis, or what makes me a little different from other Swaroonians. I already applied this in my person to the extent that I can fracture time or pass through walls or teleport at will. However, since only I can perceive and understand the set of agreements and laws that govern me, it makes it impossible for anyone else to perceive what I do, because that is not within the realm of possibility for their reality. That's why I can't prove any of this to anyone, remaining as simple tricks combined with the imagination of a little girl. And from the point of view of others, that is perfectly valid, and I understand it.